Childhood obesity rates have more than tripled in the United States since 1970. The U.S. is home to the highest obesity rates in the world. 1 out of 6 children is obese. These statistics are brought to you by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention Group, the CDC. Why did I choose to do childhood obesity as my research topic? I just find it to be such a fascinating issue that children are becoming more and more obese, because as parents and guardians, it is our duty to provide the proper tools and guidance for children to lead healthy lives. And if we lead them astray and give them the wrong options, then they will obviously take those tools and later into life and can lead down the wrong path. Throughout this essay, I will highlight different points as to what it means to be obese, why it is becoming more of an issue, some of the mental sides of obesity, and then certain communities and programs that can help them throughout the journey. To start off, what does it mean to be obese? Obesity is measured on a BMI scale, so their body mass index, and so the child's height is measured in regards to their weight, and so then once we get that number, it's put on a scale, growth chart in percentiles, and so if that percentile is between the 85th and 95th percentile, then that child is considered overweight, and then if they are above the 95th percentile on this growth chart, then they are considered obese. And this growth chart is based on the one provided by the CDC. So now I'm going to go into the 2 main factors that I've researched as to why children are becoming more obese. The first one is children are leading more sedentary lifestyles, so they're not as active and they're spending more time behind a screen. And then the other point is that they're leading unhealthy eating habits. They're not getting the proper nutrition that they need in their diets. And fast food has become more readily available for them. So to start off, I'll go into nutrition. So children are just not getting the right nutrition that they need to grow and develop properly. According to a research article called Causes and Consequences of Becoming Obese by Bedora, he highlights multiple factors, but the 2 that stood out to me were sugary beverages are taking a major toll on children, because oftentimes children are choosing a soda, or if they think they're being healthy, they'll choose a fruit juice, but oftentimes those have just as much sugar as a soda in it, and this results in high caloric intake and often leads to obesity or overweight. And then another point that he highlights is portion sizes. Portion sizes have increased tremendously over the more recent years, and this leads to weight gain because of all the caloric intake that's happening, and then they're not getting enough exercise to burn off these calories. And so moving on to another point, a lot of times children who have 2 working parents, they don't want to cook for them, so parents lean more towards going out to eat, and fast food is very convenient and very easy to go to. So Bedora also makes this point in his research that since fast foods are readily available, they provide food, but it's not always a healthy choice, and they contain high calories, and which also leads to high caloric intake and not getting it burned off. Excuse me. One way, kind of segueing into sedentary lifestyle, children are being more exposed to fast food advertisements through television, and this is based on a research article by Shin Yu, who talks about a lot about fast food restaurant advertising and their influence on childhood obesity. According to the CDC, kids ranging from the age of 8 to 18 spend an average of 7.5 hours in front of a screen, and 4.5 hours of those are spent in front of a TV screen. So as I mentioned, children are being exposed to all these fast food advertisements on TV, and they're gonna influence their parents because they see all this fun stuff on TV, and they're gonna be like, oh, we want this and we want that, and like it may guide the parents in the wrong direction and getting that instead of going out and having a healthy meal at home. The CDC also suggests that children get at least 60 minutes of physical activity, and while they're spending so much time in front of a TV screen or their iPad or whatnot, they're not taking the time to go outside and get active or becoming a part of the local sports team because they would much rather go home and play video games. So as I mentioned, children are being exposed to fast food advertisements. The National Longitude Survey of Health was conducted on the correlation between fast food advertisements and the BMI levels. And one statistic / quote that I provided was several different specifications were employed, and most results show a positive and statistically significant impact of food restaurant advertisement on television on body mass index. And so this goes to show that it is real that this is an issue, that children are being exposed to these kinds of advertisements and fast foods. So leaning more towards the mental health side of things, those who are overweight and obese are more likely to be out of breath during exercise and physical activity, and that's based off of an article called Overweight and Obesity by Gavin. So when you become shortness of breath and whatnot, that can lead to frustration and discouragement from engaging in any sort of activity. So once you already get knocked down, children are more likely to not want to keep pushing through it, and they don't have the mental capability of addressing these types of issues. And then along with that, there's so many other issues that come along with obesity and physical activity. Continuing on with the mental health side of things, a quote from Shelley Russell-Mayhew in her research article on mental health and wellness in childhood obesity and overweightness. She says obesity is not a psychological disorder, but some researchers and clinicians argue that it should be considered a mental behavioral issue. There's a variety of psychological factors that were observed in this study that she researched that show a correlation between higher BMI and mental state. Depression is not only shown to be a cause of obesity, but it's also a consequence of obesity. I mean, if you really take a look at it, like, body image is a major problem, and those who are not pleased with the way they look, they're obviously not going to be happy throughout their lives. There's also this idea of westernized cultural ideas of beauty being thin for girls, and for men it's being lean and muscular. And so this causes great levels of body dissatisfaction, which can lead to poor mental health. So moving on to more the community side of things, one program that I found locally, or I was exposed to, was this Fit-tastic program, and it's being implemented through Children's Mercy here in Kansas City. Basically, it's a program. I have this pamphlet here, and it's called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so each number represents something. So 1 is 1 hour of physical activity, 2 is 2 hours maximum of screen time, and 3 3 servings of low-fat or non-fat milk or yogurt. 4 is 4 servings of water, which does not include sugary drinks. And then 5 is 5 servings or more of fruits and vegetables. And I think this is great to get like a base start of what children need to be aware of and what their parents need to be aware of on how to provide a healthy lifestyles. Talking with the director of this program, Robin Shook, one question that stood out to me was, do parents get offended when they're exposed to this type of quiz or this type of pamphlet because they may not think that they're giving their children an unhealthy lifestyle? And I think she really went into hone in on just giving them, there's a quiz on this, giving them the quiz and showing them that how they're answering the questions really goes to show how they're actually letting their children live, and if they're not meeting all the requirements of the of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 program, then that shows that maybe they need to make a change. And I think this is a great program, and it's an easy guidance on for parents to start and have them implement the right tools for children to lead healthy lives. Also, in regards to your parents being your guidance, like living at home and being a child, they're the ones that provide all the food, and those who have more physically active parents are more likely to be physically active themselves. So if parents get out and go ride their bikes and bring their kids along, like that'll help guide children to be more active. Or like if they have fruits and vegetables in the house instead of chips and candy, then children obviously aren't exposed to that, so then they don't choose those later in life. So with that being said, there's a variety of factors that go into being obese as a child. And I think that there's so many different ways that children can be turned away from it, and they can be guided in the right direction to make the right choices to lead healthier lives.